The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free.
Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. I wanted to do something just a little bit different from our normal Bible study segment. I was just thinking that, there's bound to be lots of conversation and exchanges between people of differing viewpoints throughout Pride Month and really all year long. I'm not going to present the specifics of my viewpoint on LGBTQIA plus related issues here and now. I've expressed those elsewhere well enough, I think. There are different views between Christians and non-Christians on these issues, and different views between Christians and other Christians. Many different views. A spectrum of views with a lot of nuance. And we will not come to agreement by one view simply having the best reasoning. We will increasingly find agreement as we employ good reasoning and good communication motivated by right attitudes. As Christians, we must lead the way in this. Non-Christians we interact with about these issues may or may not have in their minds objective standards of morality that they subject themselves to as they converse or post online, but as Christians we do. And we have to subject ourselves to Scripture as we interact with others, whether they are believers or non-believers, as we talk about others, whether they are believers or non-believers. And so I wanted to take a little time to, with really little or no interpretation, simply read verses from the ESV translation of Scripture that I think speak plainly, speak for themselves, and speak to us powerfully as we prepare to interact with others over contested issues such as human sexuality. It's been humbling and equipping for me to kind of gather and collect these verses and prepare to read them here. I hope that you will find it worthwhile to your own heart and mind as you consider interacting with people you disagree with, or as you choose how to talk about other people and groups of people. Proverbs 18:2. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. James 3:5 and 6. The tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life. Proverbs 19:11. Good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is his glory to overlook an offense. Proverbs 12:16. The vexation of a fool is known at once, but the prudent ignores an insult. Proverbs 29:11. The fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. Proverbs 11:12. Whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. Proverbs 17:28. Even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. Proverbs 23:9. Do not speak in the hearing of a fool, for he will despise the good sense of your words. 1 Corinthians 5:12. What have I to do with judging outsiders? Is it not those inside the church whom you are to judge? Colossians 4:5 and 6. Walk in wisdom toward outsiders, making the best use of the time. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. The only point of clarification I'll give to that verse is the word gracious, which is a churchy word we often take for granted, goes in one ear, out the other. But that word means undeserved favor. So to have gracious speech means that you are speaking in a way that is more good than the person you are speaking with deserves. Let me read that again with that in mind. Colossians 4, 5, and 6. Walk in wisdom toward outsiders, making the best use of the time. Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. Titus 2, verses 6 through 8. Likewise, urge the younger men to be self-controlled. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. Proverbs 16, 21 and 23. The wise of heart is called discerning, and sweetness of speech increases persuasiveness. The heart of the wise makes his speech judicious and adds persuasiveness to his lips. Ephesians 4:15. Speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ. And I think understanding love is important when we look at that verse and looking at what it means to speak the truth in love. So the last passage I'm going to read is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 13. What does it look like to speak the truth in love? 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 13. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. If you would like some help finding a good church in your area, I would love to help you do that if I can. Online resources and communities are good supplements, but by their very nature, they can't speak to your particular situation like relationships in a local church can. The context for almost everything in the New Testament assumes that we are serving and building purposeful relationships in a local church. So whether you're in a church that lacks Bible-based intentionality or maybe not attending any church at all right now, if I can help you get connected to an authentic, compassionate, Bible-oriented church, I would love to do that. Email me, please, paeter@spiritblade.com, and we can try to look at some websites of churches in your area together.